Some moments in life are so wild that they don't even feel real, especially when they happen inside a courtroom. Judges attacked, outbursts that defy logic, and even fights breaking out right in front of the gavel. But what happens when the unexpected takes center stage in a place designed for law and order? Some of these moments are shocking, some are downright absurd, and a few, they'll leave you speechless. But the real question is, if you were sitting in that courtroom, how would you react? Let's count down the 10 craziest courtroom moments caught on camera. Murder defendant laughs. During sentencing, there's something chilling about a person who shows no remorse for their crimes. But what if they go a step further and laugh in the face of justice? That's exactly what happened in Fort Worth, Texas, when convicted murderer Mark Spencer did the unthinkable. As the victim's grieving family took the stand to share their heartbreak, Spencer sat back and laughed. Not a nervous chuckle, not a smirk, he laughed. The judge's face hardened. The jury looked on, disgusted. The victim's mother? She clenched her fists, her voice shaking with rage. But Spencer wasn't done. When asked if he had any last words before sentencing, he leaned forward and said, "I'd do it again." The judge wasted no time. Life in prison, no parole. But even as he was dragged away, Spencer kept grinning. A man with nothing left to lose, or so he thought. 9. Defendant fakes a heart attack. Sometimes people will do anything to avoid facing justice, and in Cleveland, Ohio, Keeson Wilkins took that to the extreme. Representing himself in a murder trial, Wilkins knew things weren't going his way. So, he tried to pull off an Oscar-worthy performance. Right as the prosecution delivered damning evidence, he clutched his chest, gasped, and collapsed. The courtroom erupted. Paramedics rushed in. The judge called for a recess. But there was just one problem. Wilkins wasn't having a heart attack. He wasn't even sick. Minutes later, a medical team declared him completely fine. His little stunt? It only delayed the inevitable. The jury returned, unimpressed, and handed down a guilty verdict. Life in prison, no escape. 8. Judge and public defenders. Fistfight. A courtroom is supposed to be a place of order, but in Brevard County, Florida, things got personal. Judge John C. Murphy and public defender Andrew Weinstock were in a heated argument over a trial delay. Words turned into threats. And then Murphy stood up, glared at Weinstock, and growled, "Let's take this outside." Weinstock barely had time to react before the two stormed out of the courtroom, and just seconds later, loud thuds and shouts echoed through the hall. Courtroom cameras couldn't catch the fight, but audio recordings revealed grunts, punches, and even furniture being knocked over. Weinstock came back disheveled. "Murphy?" He returned, looking smug. But when the footage went viral, the Florida Supreme Court stepped in. Murphy was fired for misconduct, proving that even judges can't escape consequences. 7. Defendant throws feces at attorney. There are courtroom outbursts, and then there's this. In Springfield, Ohio, Ricky Hand wasn't happy about his 40-year prison sentence. But instead of shouting or protesting, he did something unforgivable. As his attorney turned to speak, Hand pulled out a plastic bottle from his pocket, filled with his own feces. In one swift motion, he threw it directly at the attorney's face. The room exploded in chaos. Security tackled him, but the damage was done. As if that wasn't bad enough, Hand reportedly had multiple bottles on him, suggesting he'd planned the attack in advance. He was slapped with additional charges and dragged out of the courtroom, screaming. 6th Judge Tracie Hunter dragged out of courtroom. A courtroom should be a place of dignity, but what happens when a judge refuses to accept their own fate? In Hamilton County, Ohio, former Judge Tracie Hunter was convicted of illegally helping her brother in a legal case. But when sentencing day arrived, she refused to go quietly. As deputies approached, she went limp, forcing them to drag her out of the courtroom in front of the media, the jury, and a room full of stunned spectators. The scene was surreal. Hunter later claimed she was being persecuted, but the law didn't bend. She served 6 months behind bars and lost everything: her career, her law license, and her reputation. 5. Detroit judge handcuffs a teen. During a field trip in Detroit, Michigan, a courtroom field trip turned into a real-life lesson, and not everyone was happy about it. Judge Kenneth King was leading a group of high school students through his courtroom when one of them fell asleep. But instead of waking him gently, King made an example out of him. In front of the entire class, King ordered the teen to be handcuffed. The room went silent. The student's face turned pale, and for a few minutes, he sat there trapped, embarrassed, and unable to move. When the handcuffs finally came off, the judge warned him, "This is where bad choices lead you." Some praised the lesson. Others called it humiliating and unnecessary. The debate? It's still ongoing. Fourth judge attacked in Las Vegas courtroom. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Judge Mary Kay Holthus never expected her day to end in a full-on brawl. Deobra Redden, standing trial for battery and domestic violence, suddenly leaped over the judge's bench. In a blink, he was on her swinging his fists. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Bailiffs rushed in. Attorneys jumped back. The judge barely escaped serious injury. Redden's attack? It earned him even more prison time. But it also exposed a terrifying truth. Even judges aren't safe inside their own courtrooms. 3. Florida man's courtroom outburst. A courtroom is a place for justice, not revenge. But Omar Rodriguez saw things differently. Convicted of murdering his neighbor, he was facing sentencing when he did the unthinkable. He turned to the victim's family and mocked them. He cried like a baby. Rodriguez sneered. What a coward. The room erupted in outrage. The judge slammed the gavel, warning him to stop, but Rodriguez just laughed. His punishment? Life in prison. And even behind bars, he remained unapologetic. 2. App Rocky's explosive trial moments. From secret celebrity appearances to tense confrontations, App Rocky's trial in Los Angeles had it all. His fiancée, Rihanna, made discreet visits. Lawyers clashed like warriors. And at one point, the entire courtroom held its breath as Rocky took the stand. The verdict? Still pending. But this trial isn't just about Rocky, it's about the power of influence, fame, and justice. 1. New Mexico. Courtroom brawl. A murder trial in Albuquerque, New Mexico, was supposed to be routine. Instead, it became a full-on battleground. The defendant stood quietly as the hearing began, but suddenly, 3 furious individuals, relatives of the victim, charged forward. Fists flew. A chair was hurled across the room. Screams echoed as security rushed in, but the chaos only grew. One of the attackers grabbed the defendant, landing brutal punches before being tackled by officers. A deputy, overwhelmed by the sheer violence, was forced to use a stun gun. When order was finally restored, the damage was undeniable. The attackers, all arrested on assault charges. The courtroom, left in shambles, and the judge, shaken. But a stark reminder remained sometimes. Even in a place of law, emotions explode beyond control. Courtrooms are meant to be places of order, but as we've seen, anything can happen. Some moments leave us in shock. Some leave us questioning how far people will go, and some, they remind us that justice is never as simple as it seems. Which of these moments do you think was the most shocking? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so you never miss a crazy story like this. Justice may be unpredictable, but one thing's for sure, there's always more to uncover.